Still number one. Still number one. And hey guys, welcome to episode number 6 of the Batten MMA show, only on Ace Podcast Nation. I'm your host, Ty. Here at Ace Podcast Nation, we've got podcasts and channels, interviews, everything, all sorts of subjects. We've got a weekly football show, the Andy Campbell show. We've got a very popular show at the moment, Unscripted and Uncensored, where you, the people, set the questions for the various guests. We released a new episode last week, with the UFC's newest signing, Modestas Bukauskas. I always mess up his name, bless him. I apologize, Modestas. I always do it. We've also got another new series coming next week, or this week, not sure 100% on that yet, with it's called My Story, and that features former England fast bowler Chris Lewis in the first episode, as well as plenty of other episodes and series to come. Today's show brought to you, as always, by Away Day Apparel. Away Day Apparel is a group of casually obsessed football fans looking to bring something different to the wardrobes of like-minded people. Please visit their website awaydayapparel.co.uk. The links will be in the description. I highly recommend giving them a follow on Twitter at AwayDayApparel and Instagram at @awayday_apparel. 2020 will be very interesting and exciting year for the brand, especially for followers of Ace Podcast Nation. We've got a code for 10% off. You can put in the code at the till or the checkout. All in lowercase is AA Podcast Nation, and that'll get you 10% off all orders. And we thank them for sponsoring the show. So today I'm joined by UK MMA legend, former Cage Warriors featherweight champion, Mr. Danny Batten. Welcome, buddy. How are you?
Hello, Si. Yeah, I'm very good. Another great weekend.
It was really interesting. Really interesting. I wonder if we'll agree on the main event and what have you. But there's plenty to talk about and go through. Some brutal strikes, some good grappling, some decisions, maybe suspect or otherwise, who knows. A new intro for the show as well, with some old footage of the champ himself.
Yeah, and it's in colour still. How about that?
I know, it's surprising, isn't it? Yes. Not that long ago, mate. Come on. Don't do yourself a disservice. It's not that long ago. So just before we go into the UFC 247 card, which will be the main aspect of the show, a couple of things I just wanted to touch on, really. Obviously, Tom Mearns, who's one of your fighters, was scheduled to be on the Bellator Dublin card. I think it's March, isn't it?
That's right.
But I saw yesterday, Tom had done a couple of interviews to say he'd been removed from the card, and he found out on Facebook, which is obviously, it's not the best in terms of that. But obviously, you'll be able to explain to us perhaps why and what's gone on a bit better than the bits and pieces I know.
Yeah, I mean, Tom, I was with Tom when he found out. He had stayed late at the gym with me, and it was about 11:30, 11:45 at night when he suddenly goes, "Oh, my goodness, I'm not matched up with Logan anymore." I'm like, "What? Who's he got?" And then I'm like, "Why do you think that is?" And he said, "Well, the only thing I could think of was they wanted to get a sign off from the doctor about what his weight was a week or two ago." And I'm like, "Okay, is that anything to do with the commission?" And I'm like, "Yeah, it is." And I'm like, "Well, anything the commission says you got to do." And he goes, "Yeah, but I text them saying I'm all fit and well, I'm good to go." I'm like, "You can't do that, Tom. You've got to let them know through the doctors and get it all signed off." Because he did get flagged up one other time when he fought on Bellator for gaining too much weight after weighing in. So I know now that on UFC and Bellator and these big events stateside, the commission now like to weigh or have some aspect of what the athletes weighing leading up to the fight, which I think's a good thing. But I didn't know Tom had not handed in his doctor's note, so that's what's come about. I was unaware of it until he explained that situation. Obviously he didn't realise how serious that would be and how consequential that would be. but he does now. And
Mm.
yeah, so as far as I'm aware, he could be fighting, but he won't be able to do it at featherweight. He'd have to do it at lightweight. But
Okay.
other than that, I'm really in the dark with it.
Okay. So I mean, and just to clarify, he's not injured.
No,
It's just this doctor's note. So there's still a chance, I
yeah,
suppose, that they could find him an opponent at lightweight.
mhm,
Has there been
yeah,
any kind of discussions or hints at anyone who, or like a potential opponent, or is it not that far down the line yet?
yeah. No, other than what I've just told you, I don't know. You know, something had got mentioned about possibly fighting Logan on another Bellator
Oh, right.
event.
Okay.
Yeah, but at lightweight. Um, so yeah, I just don't know. It's all going to come out in the wash in the next number of days. I'm guessing. I was hoping to get hold of Tom today, but been unable to see whether there was any updates. But it's Sunday, so you know it's family day, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, maybe
I
tomorrow.
actually I was looking forward to the fight. I thought it was a pretty good matchup, him and Logan to fight each other. So
Yeah,
be good if they could still do it at some point.
yeah. If it doesn't happen now, it could happen down the line still, I guess. But yeah, we just got to get a few things in place to make sure that this doesn't happen again. I mean, you know, everything's a learning curve, I guess. You know, Tom's still relatively inexperienced fighting on the, you know, on some of the biggest shows in the world. You know, maybe we could put it down to that. Like I say, I wouldn't have let this happen if I was aware. Um, as far as I was concerned, everything was in place and was good to go. I was unaware he didn't hand in his certification. You know, I could possibly get partially blamed for that, but I'm getting told it's all good. And it turns out it wasn't all good. So what can you do?
Yeah, I guess there's a great deal. Yeah, I mean, the last, I think, like I said to you off air, like the last 18 months, particularly the UFC and Bellator in particular, have been a lot stricter with
Mm,
the amount of weight which is put back, is being put back on afterwards, and how much weight fighters are losing, how quickly they're doing it. Which, overall and long term is a good thing, despite obviously both of us, I'm sure you
mm.
more than me, but I'm disappointed for him as well, that he's looks to be taken off the card.
Yeah,
But in the long term thinking, obviously anything to do with keeping weight cut safe is a good thing overall.
yeah, yeah. I mean, Tom's always been quite a big weight cutter, but he's also been extremely fit and healthy. So he was always able to deal with those big weight cuts. But you know, things have changed. You know, the commission are there to keep the fighter safe and have a set protocol of
Yeah,
criteria to be put in place at different times and dates, and you have to stick by them religiously. And you know, he didn't. You know, he did everything else. Everything else was in place. It was just that one thing, that one issue.
yeah, it's a shame, but hopefully, like I say, it can be a learning curve, and
Mm,
hopefully, it might work. You never know with these things. It's always you never know at the time what something will lead to. He
mm,
could have another fight at lightweight or on a different card.
yeah,
Completely destroy his opponent, and before you know it, end up with some sort of title shot, and maybe it wouldn't have happened if he'd taken
yeah,
this fight or whatever. You just don't know in
yeah,
this line of business, as it were.
yeah. We'll
Um,
just go with the flow.
Indeed. Okay, so UFC 247 was quite the card. Particularly the two main events were obviously very big fights with some big names.
Hmm.
I just wanted to give it a shout. We're going to focus on the main card, but I did just want to briefly mention a fighter called James Krause, who fought on the UFC 247 prelims. Uh, he took that fight on a day's notice. Um, he won fight of the night. He won $50,000, which is, I'm really happy for him, because to take a fight on 24 hours notice is not something that all fighters would do.
Mm,
Obviously, they're well within their rights to do so, but I think he deserves a lot of credit for that, and to perform the way that he did as well, um, and the level that he did. He deserves that check. If anyone does, I think he does. So
yeah.
much respect
Certainly
to him.
not easy. I mean, I understand. A lot of these top fighters are always in shape, and good to go in some way, but nevertheless, a proper directed fight camp is the ultimate way you want to step in there. But for stepping up on a day's notice, yeah, fair play. Respect to him.
What was the shortest fight that you ever, like, shortest notice you've ever taken for a fight, either for you or for one of your fighters?
I fought Maeda in Japan on 4 days' notice. What was it? The weight out there was 63.9 for their featherweight, and I was 74.8 or something 4 days before. Yeah, and I made weight and fought him. I know he had been a Pancras champion for about 5 years. Real dominant force out there. He was fighting on all the big promotions, not just Pancras. He was fighting on Pride, and yeah, he's a big name. Yeah, 4 days, did well, went the distance, lost on decision. But to win out in Japan, unless you knock them out or submit them, it's pretty hard to win on decision out there. But good experience all the same.
Wow.
Yeah,
I was going to say 4 days, geez. And not just like 4 days with no preparation, but to lose the weight and then go the distance. That's quite impressive.
Yeah. And with the flights having to be sorted the way there was, so I arrived on the weigh-in morning. And anyone who knows anything about long haul flights, they make you hold the water. It was not nice. Me and my manager, stroke coach, running around Tokyo, trying to get the final few kilos off and trying to do interviews in between, because it was such a big build fight, being top of the bill on the Pancras card, fighting their champion. Yeah, so
Wow.
doing interviews.
Interesting.
Going back for another run. Yeah, certainly.
Good experience. That must have been an awesome experience. So Japan's on my bucket list of places that I want to go. I really want to go to Japan.
Very, very crazy, strange people, but all in a positive way.
Yeah, cool. So I say this all the time, guys, but if you see me looking off to the side, I'm not daydreaming. It's my other screen, which I've got now, which has got all my details and stuff on. So overall thoughts, mate. What did you think of the UFC 247?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Some really interesting bouts. There was a whole mixed bag of happenings. It was a good one.
Yeah, I think so. I don't think it was quite as exciting and explosive as the last couple we've had. We've been, the last couple of cards, particularly the main pay-per-view cards that we've had, have been very, very good. But I think this one also wasn't as stacked in terms of names and talent as perhaps like that UFC 245 was stacked all from start, from start to finish with big names. Then you had Conor McGregor fighting, and then the card that we watched, the UFC rally card with where Brett Johns fought. The card was, it was very, it was a really exciting fights. So this had a lot to compete with in terms of those, and I think it was by no means, boring or anything. I think it was very good. Some of the fights were excellent. But it wasn't quite as explosive as some of the other fights that we've seen recently. So first up is Derrick Lewis versus Elia Latifi.
Yes, yeah. This was an interesting little matchup. You kind of guessed the strategies in play here. Latifi maybe wanting to put it to the ground, and Lewis trying to keep it standing in some aspects. It started out slow. I mean, these guys are big plodders, and don't bust on up, regards their work rate from start to finish. But they're exciting to watch nevertheless.
No.
These big guys, they don't have to land one punch to start a chain reaction to what could be a finish. But one thing that impressed me from the get-go was Derrick Lewis's improvements with his striking, timing of things. That lead leg head kick was technically really, really well done. The only thing that was perhaps lacking with it was a little bit of, trying to prep it up a little bit. trying to disguise it in some way. He kind of just threw it out there. And Latifi's a shorter, stockier dude, so he was able to, get the forearm on it. I mean, I wouldn't want to receive one of those kicks on the forearm time and time again.
No,
Latifi did, and he blocked each and every one of them. But they certainly give you the wow factor every time they fired up. If one of them hit home, it would have definitely been good night. But Latifi, he held in strong and held a really good tight form, and that was partly good on Latifi's part, but also just a little lacking in terms of trying to set it up a little bit better for Derrick Lewis. So although his striking is improving all the time technically, he now needs to learn to play that game a little bit better to make those big kicks, those big punches land.
Yeah, especially the size of him. If he can disguise, like that kick was pretty good, but if he can disguise it and he connects, it's going to really do some damage in terms of finishing the fight.
Mm-hmm.
And like when you look later on in the card at some of Shevchenko's kicks and the way she disguises them, it means they do a lot more, damage, and they take the opponent by surprise a lot more.
Yeah.
But I was impressed with Derrick Lewis, I got to say. And the one thing I noticed is Derrick Lewis over the last year or so, particularly, it's normally first round, he comes out throwing, and then if he doesn't finish it in the first round, he looks completely, his gas tank just looks empty for the rest of the fight, however long it goes. Whereas I thought for the, it went, what was the time? I haven't got it written down, but it went in, into the third round. It went all the way, didn't it? Sorry, I got confused. Went all the way. So like, I thought his gas tank held up really well. He looked a little bit tired at the end, but when you compare that to previous fights, Derrick Lewis, I thought looked very good. There was just considerable size difference as well. So I thought Latifi did take the strikes he did.
There was a clear size advantage in the favour of Derrick. But Latifi, to give him credit, he knew he had to close the distance and get those under pummels, and he kept getting there quite often. In the first round, just couldn't get successful with it. Derrick was able to keep shrugging him off. Derrick was always looking for that big shot. Latifi was always trying to look for that takedown, but didn't know how to go about it. I don't think he knew how to get him down in that first round. And that was pretty, what got set as a theme for that first round. It's Derrick throwing those bombs, Latifi trying to close the distance, keep him up against the fence, trying the odd takedown here and there. And Derrick was trying to get back out in the open to throw those big bombs again and those big impressive kicks. But things started to change around a little bit as you went into the second round. Latifi started to control a little lower down on the body. He wasn't going upper body so much. He started getting those hips. And when you get those hips, you can start moving your feet around their feet. And he started getting around to the side rear of him and tripping him down. And that started to change things a little bit because Derrick, as much as he was going in with those jumping knees and those big overhands and those big head left kicks that he was doing, as much as that was impressive, he was getting crowded very, very quickly thereafter. So, this was the playoff really. Was Derrick going to score that knockout, or was Latifi going to get him down and maybe, score that ground and pound on him? That was what was making the bout really exciting in that second round. Latifi found a way to get it to the ground. Lewis, when he was on the feet, was always looking to finish. And that's what made it exciting to watch for me.
Yeah, it was good. And like you say, the first round, Latifi, it was almost as if he just couldn't quite get his timing right with trying to get to grips with Derrick. But then that second round, Lewis, he began with a big high switch kick, and then that seemed to wake Latifi up almost a little bit. And he, like you mentioned, he had a couple of trips and stuff. He managed to get Lewis with some ground and pound as well, although there was some weird stand-ups and stuff in this show. Throughout the show, there was what really, I don't know if it was this fight or it was one of the later fights, but there was one where they were stood up, kind of grappling for position, and he broke them up, and
that was in another bout. In this one, I think it was pretty good. Latifi was a little bit inactive, to be fair. He was scoring, takedowns, getting reasonable positions to try and be proactive for submissions or some ground and pound. and he wasn't doing that. I think he was more looking for a breather, just trying to consume some minutes on the ground in a winning position to try and take the round that way. But the ref was having none of it and stood him up, and rightly so, I believe. And I think that's what made it such a good bout, especially from the second round through to the third round. I think that it was really good to watch, all for the fact that Lewis wanted to put it away on the feet, and Latifi was more looking like he was wanting to try to, survive more than anything else, and maybe try to nip those rounds with the takedowns.
Yeah, Latifi never looked like he was trying to finish the fight, did he? He did look as if he was trying to secure the round by taking him down, and like you say, wasn't really progressing from the takedown, whether it be a submission or like further in that ground and pound. I gotta say, I enjoyed particularly the last two rounds, but I was quite impressed with Lewis, just because I've watched a lot of his fights over the last couple of years, and I feel like he improves every time. Like,
I agree.
And I feel like, again, he's shown a greater conditioning. I've shown, like you mentioned, his strikes were a lot crisper and technically more correct. So I think he's got the ability to keep pushing on and pushing it. And it'd be interesting to see when he adds in these little things that you've mentioned to his game. And if he can keep the conditioning and the stamina that he showed in this fight, it'd be interesting to see how far he can go, because I do, he's got the power. There's no doubt. We've seen him lift people off their feet with strikes. So he's clearly working hard, is what I'm getting at. He's not settling for those big KO wins and then losing the big fight and then going away, beating some more people. He's clearly working hard at his game to improve all aspects of it.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. He's takedown defense is looking more solid, although we did see him get taken down. He was so much more often looking like he can get up off his back and get back to standing, which again he did do at odd times. There were some times he was settling on his back for a little bit of a breather, but being big guys, you can be forgiven to that to a point. I just think, as Derrick evolves, I think you're going to see more setups with his strikes, because clearly he's got a good camp that are moving him forward. And I just think you're going to see some KOs that are not so much just throwing something out there and hoping it lands. I think it's going to be set up more as you see him progress. And and who knows? You might even see him choose to put people on their back as well. You might see him improve with the wrestling aspects in terms of actually being aggressive with the takedown and getting some ground and pound. Because I imagine he'd be a pretty devastating ground and pounder if he could just sort out that wrestling a little bit more.
Well, you think that if he could get a good ground and pound position, there ain't many people going to be able to get a guy his size off him. He's a big dude.
Yes.
And even the very end of the fight, he was swinging quite wildly at Latifi in those final moments. So it shows that even right up to the end, he did not want to settle for the decision. He was trying to finish the fight. And he had some more left in the tank as well.
Yeah. I mean, it's always, I wasn't sure how the judging, one thing we are learning is that you just can't tell how the judges are judging things anymore.
No, God, no.
And they are doing a new scoring method now, aren't they? Where they're putting in more 10-8s and what have you. But, Latifi, as much as he was scoring some takedowns, which I think in times previous would have secured him winning rounds, I think the fact that he was so inactive on top, stopped him from winning those rounds. Every time Derrick got up on the feet, he was gunning for the finish, and I think that's why things started to go in his favour in terms of the judging.
Do you think? Do you think that Latifi would have won the second round maybe a year ago, from the takedowns and stuff?
Yeah, I think time's gone past. Quite possibly you would have seen that result going Latifi's way, because of those takedowns. But absolutely, look, if you're going to do a takedown, you're going to be in a proactive potential position, and then you've got to be proactively aggressive. You can't be in a dominant position or do anything. That's like backing up against someone to the fence, because you stalked them down with the strikes and then not actually deliver a strike. It's It's going to be frustrating to watch. Yeah, so I was impressed with Latifi's ability to get it to the mat, but I wasn't impressed with his work ethic when he got in there. Maybe he was just so scared to get to let Derrick up again and wanted to hold him there a little bit more. But yeah, that went against him. In that second or third round, although he had more success, it wasn't success enough in terms of trying to do any kind of damage. Derrick was throwing that head kick up. He was doing those jumping knees time and time again, and he was throwing those big bombs in the form of his hands. Always wanted to put it away, and I think that's why he got the nod with the judges.
Yeah, it's interesting. So my guys and my friends at Fightful, which are actually modeling their T-shirt today, they had this scored as 29-28 for Latifi. But obviously the judges had it at 29-28, 29-28, 29-28. I didn't score this one. So I was interested by that because, the guys who do that, they do know their stuff. So it made me think, maybe I saw the fight wrong, but like everything which you've said is pretty much how I had seen it. So I'll go with you. Every time. Every time.
I mean, I mean, that's just the way I saw the fight. I just think, fights are all about getting good positions and being aggressive with them, whether it's on the feet striking, whether it's on the fence, putting them there back up against the fence and being aggressive there, trying the takedowns, slams, strikes up against the clinch like Randy Couture did. I mean, Randy Couture didn't have to take people down. He just literally beat them against the fence.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, these advantageous positions have to be exploited in the form of some form of aggression. It doesn't have to always be strikes. It can be submission orientated. But being on top, being stuck in some form of guard, which it was in half guard mostly. You need to start striking from there. You either pass,
of course,
and go for submissions, or you start striking. And the striking was not exactly, impressive.
He got good. He got good positions, but he didn't utilize them enough when he did.
No.
So next up, we had Mirsad Bekjic. I always pronounce these people's names. And Dan Eag.
This was a really good fight. I really enjoyed it. Dan was really impressing me from the get-go. He was being powerful. He was precise, sharp. Really looking good.
Takedowns as well.
Yeah. It was sort of like everything was in place and looking really positive for him. I just thought, crikey, this is going to be much of the same going into the next round, starting off so well, and he looked so fresh as well. So he looked a little bit tentative and like he was struggling to find his range, his timing. What caused that? Who would know what caused that? But maybe just because he got clipped very, very early on, it just knocked his confidence. But as much as Dan had a great first round, the second round, it totally went away from him in terms he suddenly didn't have his timing so well down. Although the thing what impressed me with Dan was his clinch and then his uppercuts in the clinch and uppercuts as he broke from the clinch. I mean, any one of them could have put the fight to bed. It really could. That part of it really impressed me. But it's so strange how he started so well and yet seemed to have lost his timing in that second and third round. And he seemed to just taper off, whether it was a bit of fatigue. I don't know what it was. I don't know whether to think whether it was Dan's fault the fight began to slip as the rounds went on, or whether it's the fact that Assad just shook off any of the rust or any of the issues he had in that first round, and it was the fact that he just upped his game. But
it could be.
It was the wrestling. The wrestling was what began to tell tale, wasn't it? The fact he was scoring those takedowns and wearing on Dan.
Yeah, it was the first round. Dan did so much into his striking, takedowns, kicks, and he did a lot of good stuff. And maybe a little bit of fatigue slipped in that second round. You'd think, at this level, most fighters, if they have a bad start in round one, they will come out in the second round looking a bit with a bit more about them and a bit sharper and a
Yeah.
bit more
Yeah.
determined. And I think that probably had a lot to do with it. See, I had Dan win in the first round, 10-9. And then Betchik's win in the second round, 10-9. And then I had Dan Ige win in the third round.
Right.
But I know some people on social media thought that Mirsad Bektic won the third round. What did you have it for the third round?
Yeah, I had Mirsad winning the third round as well.
Okay.
He was getting those takedowns. And I think I didn't like the choice of Dan's defense when he was getting shot in on the single leg and the doubles. He was choosing to reach round his waist and try and reach for the crutch rather than push the head when it's to the outside. I think when the head's to the outside, you need to stop the transitions. But he kept reaching for something that he couldn't actually get a reach for. He couldn't clasp his hands together to get that crutch hold. And so Mirsad started running his head up high, threatening the back take, and re-engaging the arms to leg takedown. And that's why I edged it for Mirsad in that third round. He was just getting the transitions. It made it look like Dan was, always fighting out of a sticky situation. I'd have to have a look at it again. Why did you? What was your view on why you would give it to Dan in that third?
I just felt like he began the third round with a few strikes, and then he hit him with like an overhand right, and then they kind of had like a brief striking exchange. Bektic went for the legs and had him against the wall, but then I think just after that, I felt like I sort of caught him with a couple of elbow strikes, and I felt like out of the two of them, I felt like I did a bit more damage than what Mirsad did in that third round. But obviously, it's not always scored now on damage, is it? It's about pressure and
they're including a lot of aspects in, which so they should. I think it makes it interesting.
He also hit him with a really nice kick to the gut towards the end of the fight, which I thought looked extremely painful.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just looking through this third round now, just trying to recap on other points. So I think that he's winning. Yeah, look, Mirsad he just kept on tying him up all the time and making Dan have to defend pretty much from the get go. And Dan was definitely chasing with the harder strikes. Possibly trying to put it away. I wasn't too impressed with Mirsad striking. Some of the strike choices he was doing was a little bit off. Also, a lot of fingers pointing out. I don't know whether you noticed that he had his hands out straight quite a lot. I'm surprised he didn't get warnings for that.
John Jones got 3 warnings, didn't he, or 2 warnings straight away?
Yeah. But to me, it's just the wrestling. Mirsad just kept getting in there and making Dan have to play, countering out of those positions more than he was being aggressive in those defending positions. But I can see why you would say that Dan won. I totally get your point.
It was a very, very close third round, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. It was not a whitewash on any front. But I just think those takedowns, and he just looked like he was grinding down on him a little bit.
Yeah, it's a strange fight in some ways, because Dan Ige looks so impressive in the first round, and then, like you said, Bektic kind of ground him down in the latter 2 rounds. And I think if it had been like a 5-round fight, Mirsad Bektic would have probably just ground him down into submission or a TKO. I don't know about a TKO because his striking was odd, but he would have probably ground him down into a submission or certainly a comfortable victory on the decision. But it was 3 rounds. So the judges had a split.
And I'm going to like I say, it was so close. I can understand why it was a split, but I think the thing what finally edged it for me and would have done for majority of the judges was, in that last minute, Masad shot in, and it looked like it was all going to go peep tong for him because Dan started stepping over. He had his arm trapped in an awkward position, but he slipped off, didn't he? He slipped off from that potential mount position and ended up underneath. And then as they exchange out of there, Masad got the top position momentarily, and they got back to the feet, but Masad was on Dan's back. And I think, that last impression was what the judges probably scored it. Yeah. And, it went into the last 30 seconds with Masad on top, threatening guillotines and other arming potential chokes. I think that's what just nailed it, really.
So were you surprised that they gave, so it was 29-28, 28-29, 29-28 to Dan Ige. Were you very surprised that, obviously what you've just said there, with the lasting impression of that final round, that they didn't go the other way?
Yeah. I'd say it's all down to what happened in that last couple of minutes of that last round.
Yeah, because often when it's a close fight like that, the judges will go on the kind of latter rounds when they score, or it seems as if they do, at least. But it's a good fight. I really enjoyed it.
It was a really good fight. Yeah, I think we're going to see more good things to come from them both. So,
yeah, I think maybe Dan Ige will just, I don't know whether he needs to maybe manage his kind of output a little bit better in that early round. Or maybe Mirsad Bektic just, got himself together and, he's no mug.
Yeah,
so
I don't know what made things change. Like, this is what I was saying at the beginning. I'm not too sure whether it was just Masad stepped his game up or whether Dan tapered off, or maybe a tiny bit of both. But Dan looked like he was going to be unstoppable in that first round. It's like, this
first round, he did, didn't he?
Yeah, it's going to be more of the same thing. But it didn't. Masad started looking better. Dan was looking, not quite so good. But that's what made it a great bout to watch.
Yeah, it was really interesting to watch, I gotta say. I enjoyed it a lot. So just waiting for my page to load. But next up was Juan Adams versus Justin Taffer. The first thing I will say about this fight before we go into the actual fight is I didn't think this fight should be on the main card.
Okay.
I thought it should have been a prelim fight. I think it was probably only on the main card because Juan Adams is from Texas, and I know they think a lot of Justin Taffer as well. So maybe they wanted to give him a bit of exposure on a main card. But I did think this was probably a prelim fight, in all honesty. But it's still enjoyable for when it lasted. It wasn't long.
It didn't. I mean, what can you say about this one? It just didn't last long.
Minute 59.
Yeah, it was all over so quick. Once someone starts a roller coasting in an advantage and they get the taste for the kill, it can be over very quickly in terms of a submission or ground and pound, or if you catch someone on the feet early. We've seen it all too often in UFC, Bellator, any of these big mainline shows. You get the taste that you might win. It's time to, go balls out, and that's what happened in this one.
Oh yeah.
There's not a lot to mention about it. I mean, it was just, too quick to look into it in any heavy technical way. We just didn't get to see what might have played out strategically between them both.
Yeah, Taffer caught about 30 seconds, I think, before he caught him with the uppercut and the finish. He caught him with a couple of lefts, and they really rocked. You could tell they rocked him because he's his body tensed up and he didn't look steady on his feet. And then when Taffer come in and dropped him with a pair of rights, the second one in particular, the uppercut, was brutal, right on the button.
It was,
and he did not know where he was.
No, I mean the guy was fresh, throwing hard shots. So, ouch.
His striking looks quite good for Taffer. you could see why they like him. He comes from a long line of fighters in his family, and you can see why the UFC likes him. Obviously, with Mark Hunt now gone as well, it gives him that kind of another big New Zealander to market, and I can see why they would have wanted him on this card to get him some exposure to the people around the world. Probably a prelim fight for me, but I can't knock him. He did what he had to do, and he did it impressively.
You can only beat what you got in front of you. I mean, the other guy's a massive dude.
He is big dude, isn't he?
Very, very big dude. But he put him out. He did it really in dominant fashion. I'm sure in his mind and with his camp, they just want to forget that now, and they're just saying, "Hey, next, what's next? Set me up for the next one. Let's move up."
Yeah, I'd be interested now because they've put him on the main card and he's won so impressively. It almost seems unfair if they move him back onto the prelims, or not back on, but like onto the prelims for his next fight. Like, but then I suppose he could main event the prelims, I suppose, in his next fight. But I will keep a very close eye on him because I thought that I saw enough in that short time from his striking to know that he's going to be an exciting fighter to watch.
Oh yeah, he's going to be someone who's going to go for the kill. There's no two ways about that. He's got power, precision, and he's really compact. So lethal combination in that division.
Get him and him and Derrick together would be good.
You know what? That would be a good one.
Just try and knock each other out for 3 rounds. That'd be good. I like the sound of that.
I don't know whether that would go 3 rounds, them two.
No,
not too sure it would even go that far. Someone's going to sleep.
Yeah, and I got a feeling that I don't think Dana wants to put Taffer against Derrick Lewis at the moment. I think he'll get a couple more kind of journeymen or like people he should beat, so they can build him up a bit.
Yeah,
but and that's fair enough, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, nothing wrong with that.
I feel like sometimes the UFC hasn't done that enough, in that they don't always protect their potential top stars, like people who could be stars, and they throw them into the wolves instead of letting them build a bit of confidence and build some fights and build a name for themselves.
I think
look at what happened to Johnny Walker.
Yeah, of course. But I think it's good to build up a little bit of a profile on the fighters, build up a little bit of a storyline. And if they keep getting wins, build up a bit of invincibility between two people, and then you can't wait to see who's going to win. It's like having 2 superhero comics, and then you combine them both to see who would win out of the 2 superheroes. It's a little bit like that, isn't it? I think this is why Conor McGregor was such a sensation. He was just beating people that people thought he wouldn't beat, and he was doing it in such dominant fashion. And then when someone else come along that was beating everybody, and then they get to match up, that's what makes it so exciting to watch.
Yeah, damn right. And the thing is like the 2 things that I think sell the most in the UFC in terms of getting people emotionally invested in fighters is undefeated streaks and I've completely forgotten the other one now. I had 2, but undefeated streaks and something else. It was a good point.
I think there's numerous things that can make for an exciting bout. Like, what was really interesting was, like, say, Ben Askren versus Damian Maia.
Yeah.
You got one guy who's obviously an incredible wrestler with really unorthodox ground. It seems to spoil so many good grapplers' games. And then Damian Maia, second to none on the ground, very one-dimensional. But in that one dimension that he rules in, he really is super dominant. He can just sometimes struggle getting there, particularly because he's not young filly anymore.
No, he's not.
So that, for me, that way they had some really interesting ground exchanges. But you play on the ground too much with Damian Maia, you get defeated, and that happened in the end.
Oh, yeah.
So in terms of ground aspects, 2 totally different ground stylists, that can make exciting matches. Then you can have your bangers. You're going to have 2 people who are not going to hunt for a takedown, they're going to try and take each other's legs and heads off. They can make exciting bouts, and of course, then you get the storyline type of bouts, which Conor McGregor and Jesse Aldo, both so dominant, and then that they eventually going to be locking horns, and look how that ended. Someone was always going to get knocked out. So those bouts can generate so much interest, as we've seen.
Animosity, that was the other thing I was going to say.
Yeah,
like when there's that
storyline,
bit of needle, bit of animosity, that always adds to the particularly casual fans who only tune in for the big fights and the big cards. They're the ones which you're trying to kind of get, because you've got like a hardcore fan base who are going to watch every pay-per-view and every card.
Yeah.
And then you've got the people who tune in to watch Conor McGregor or John Jones or whoever it may be. And UFC needs to create some more stars like that, and you do that by having them win, and you do that by having animosity and whatnot. That's why John Jones and Daniel Cormier sold so many pay-per-views, because there was animosity there. They were also the two absolute best in their particular weights at the time.
Sure.
Clash of the Titans, as it were.
Yeah.
So let's get back to the card. Two main events coming up, and the first one, I was going to say, in my opinion, fight of the night, but I don't think it was. At the time, I thought it was fight of the night, and then I watched John Jones and Damien Reyes. Valentina Shevchenko, the champion, defended against Caitlin Chikagian for the UFC Flyweight Championship. Shevchenko is a beast.
Yeah, so patient, constantly making what seems to be almost predetermined perfect decisions, and everything she throws, punches, kicks or knees, is just done with so much vigor, so much venom behind it. Every one is a potential stopper, but so patient as well. It's like she's a cold spring that just knows when it's just going to unload everything, every punch, elbow, knee, the spinning back fist, spinning kicks.
Beautiful.
It's so precise. I mean, there was, when I say about Derrick Lewis throws things out there in hope that they land, great technique on some of those strikes that he threw. But this is not only just clinical technique, but precision and setup. Just seems to know things are going to land. Really, really, so dominant, so dominant.
So quick. Like every time Chikagian tried to push forward and hit her with some strikes, Shevchenko just nailed her with a couple of quick shots or a kick, or like she wrecked her. I think it was her left leg, just with low kicks, just precision. Same point of her leg every time, just bang, 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 and you could see the bruising up her leg, and then that was influencing Chikagian's decisions, because she couldn't quite get the kind of the lift off or the pressure through her left leg. And there was one, I think it was a wheel kick in the middle rounds, which was like so picture perfect. And I thought Chikagian did really well to take it, because it hit her flush on the chin. And
it hit with the flat of the foot. I think those kicks are served best where you bring it round with the heel. It's almost like a sparring version where you do it with the flat of the foot. It's the difference between being slapped around the face and punched in the face. If you did it with the heel, it would have been much more devastating. But let's not take anything away. To make something like that land, it's impressive. To be able to perform the kick and stay on balance is pretty impressive. But to make it a land at this level, bearing in mind this girl was tall and really rangy. And talking about the range, Shevchenko, she just seems to find a range so very early on, but it's never in a rush to do so. She's just really tight with her form, and she's patient. She assesses everything. She's seeing how they move forward, how they retract back, how many steps to the left, how many steps to the right. She's assessing everything. She's like a piece of AI hardware. She's monitoring everything and finding ways to defeat you by watching what you do. But Shevchenko, I think I say yes to pronounce her name. I don't know how we're going to agree to pronounce her name. She had a lot of range. She's tall, but she just didn't know how to make her range land. She just didn't know the distance of her strikes. So she was flicking hands out, flicking feet out at her, but with nothing that was ever going to be consequential, nothing to make Shevchenko second guess anything that she might have wanted to do. She just didn't pose her any problems. I think potentially she could have done, because there was opposite stances. I think opposite stances and the fact that you're longer, if you can just get your footwork and step outside that lead leg, it's all for you having the longer reach to make things work for you. But she just didn't. Whether she just didn't know how to, or whether just that fear of power from Shevchenko stopped her from finding her way. Yeah, I just felt too much hitting thin air.
Yeah, a lot of her strikes kind of didn't seem like they had any power behind them, whereas Shevchenko's strikes not only looked like they had everything behind them, technically the power was there, but also Shevchenko seems to be able to, she doesn't stick to one type of kick or one type of punch, and she doesn't just sit behind a jab or low kicks. She varied that up, and she did so many different kicks just throughout the fight, and not necessarily always flashy, spinning kicks. There was some front kicks and kicks to the gut and kicks to the chest, just to keep the distance or to get her where she wants to nail a more significant strike.
Yeah, she's totally mixing it up, and it just goes to show how comfortable she was in there to throw such a variety and to be so high percentage in landing it. Just goes to show you that she was really not feeling under threat. It was like a heavy sparring session where you just bring a sparring partner in to take a bit of a battering. That's how it began to look. But coming up to the last minute of the round, it got to the ground to perhaps change the theme a little bit. But really, again, just looked like the girl just didn't have any answers there. Just couldn't prep anything up. Just couldn't get her guard going. She's got these really long legs that she just couldn't make use of. And you can only but compliment Shevchenko for spoiling her, not allowing her physicality to have any play on any of the rounds.
Yeah, so the third round started, and Shevchenko pushes forward, hits some leg kicks. Chikagian goes for a high kick and lands a couple, but then Shevchenko scores a takedown because Chikagian tries to, I think she got a leg, Shevchenko caught her leg, I think. And
she
then
caught a body kick.
She tried to pull guard, and Shevchenko just adjusted so quickly that she had her in a crucifix, all locked up in seconds. And then she's just, no referee is going to allow her to.
She always hunts for that. She hunts for that crucifix position. Really, these girls should be a little bit more prepared. If they do get taken down, put into side control position, to know that this is going to be coming. So that they shouldn't be getting caught in it so easily when they know it's a big go-to. I mean, not only is it a go-to, it's a practical TKO position every time. It's one of the hardest positions to escape from. You can't get your elbows underneath the side of your body to be able to turn away or turn in to get to a turtle position to even begin to think about escaping. Both arms are put out of commission. It's like being put in a straitjacket. You just can't get your arms free to get any body momentum going. I mean, had I been sticking a female fighter of my own in there against her, I'd like to think that I'd be preparing her for situations such as that, being that we've seen it time and time again. She loves that crucifix position. It's not rocket science to avoid it, but getting put into it that quick was maybe a little bit of lacking of prep in the camp. But I don't think it mattered what was going to happen. I think if she did find a way out of that, she was going to be put into something else. And if not on the ground, it was going to be, curtains on the feet somewhere down the line.
It was almost like we were waiting for it to finish, wasn't it?
it was only ever going one way. It never looked like the girl wasn't throwing anything with any velocity to look like she might even get lucky in the fight. And on the ground, she wasn't getting anywhere near even prepping a sweep or prepping a submission to look like on the ground she was going to get anything that was going to be fortunate in her way. Very, very dominant performance.
Indeed. The crucifix as well was locked up so tight that any hope she had of getting out of it dissipated very quickly. Because she just locked up her arms and pounded her.
Her takedowns are just beautiful to watch. They're just so sure-footed. When she tried to jump guard and she released, I mean, what a great choice and decision to then trip the legs because the legs were so close. I mean, okay, so she wanted it to the ground because she was trying to jump guard. But hey, no, let's not just let her jump guard. Let's make her put her feet back down. Let me at least score the takedown if you want me to go down in your guard. I mean, it's just genius.
Clever.
A decision making. Yeah, she's got extremely good fight IQ. Along with that, a God-given body in terms of her strength and explosivity. But a fight IQ is just incredible. It really is. It's hard to know really where she goes. Well, say half. I know how I would like it to be now, but there's really no one else out there to fight other than one person, which we could discuss later.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's do it slightly different. We'll do the quick questions because we'll do the one question which relates to this. So one of the questions which we had sent in was, who does Shevchenko fight next? Because she has literally defeated everyone in her path apart from one lady.
Yes. Yeah. It has to be that Nunes. Nunes is dominant over 2 weight divisions, and obviously been dominant in her own right. This is, she's lost twice to Nunes, in 2016 and 2017. But she was less experienced then, not as good as she is now. I think she's reached her peak right as we speak. Normally you wouldn't want to see her fight a third time when they've lost twice, but this one I would want to see a third time. I want to know how they would deal with each other.
It'd be interesting.
That's going to create a lot of attention, that one, if that happens. And I think that's all that the series left, to be fair.
Yeah, I think I'd like to see the third fight, because since the 2018, I think you said was it the last one,
16 and 17,
2017. Shevchenko's been on a tear, destroying everyone, as has Nunes. So it'd be interesting to see if there's any difference in. It was a close fight anyway, so it'd be interesting to see if Shevchenko could push on in that third fight.
Yeah, sure.
But in fairness to her, when they asked her who she would like to fight next, she just said, basically, I want to fight everyone and beat everyone, and just basically said, keep them coming, and I'll keep beating them.
She's enjoying herself in there. She's coming out relatively unscathed. She's knocking up these wins. She's building up a bank account, and she's creating a legacy. So, yeah, fair play to her. Nice lady. Really impressed with her overall fight IQ. Obviously, a great camp that's behind her that's helping produce her. I just want to see it tested a little bit more now, because the last number of bouts I've seen her in, she's not been tested at all.
No. And there's women who will take the fights, isn't there? There's always most fighters fancy themselves to win a fight on any given day. So they won't be short of people wanting the fight. It's just a case of finding someone who can test her.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Next up, the main event of the evening. UFC light heavyweight championship. John Jones, the champion, versus number 4 ranked Dominic Reyes.
Yeah, wow, this started out with explosions. It was an incredible first round and did exactly what I perhaps thought he was going to do. Maybe not so effective, but Dominic come out and he was throwing hard and throwing often. He was being diverse with his strikes, switching his footwork up and staying off centre line, which I know he discussed that was really important for him. Really good strategy, really, really good game plan. come out with a really hard crosshand, didn't he, right from the get-go, and then went with a body cross as well. That was, I think, to stop Jones maybe threatening to come in for a clinch. I know that when we do our training, we do a cross body punch, because not only is it a good punch in its own right, but it kind of interferes with anyone trying to engage any kind of grappling. It's just full of action. It was hard to write down notes because it was one thing after another. I nearly ran out of ink, in the first round, writing down so many good points that Dominic was going to be doing, and all I kept writing down was Dominic doing this, Dominic doing that. Jones was just showing good composure. He was not getting flustered, which was incredible. He was getting hit with so many, or getting thrown at with so many different diverse angles and strikes, but he just seems to stay calm no matter what. He just don't change. And that's what was impressing me about Jones.
He's just so still and so calm. There was one point where I thought, he's rocked him, and within, I'd say, 10 to 15 seconds, Jones has completely regained his composure, if he ever lost it, and he's he's unbelievable.
He seems so hard to hit, and even when you do get something off, it's never super clean. You might ruffle his feathers, but for the smallest duration, certainly not enough to capitalize and follow up with anything. What you can put that down to, I don't know, whether it's just a cool cookie or whether he really is that high level that he knows that, if something is going to slip through, he ain't going to let nothing else slip through if he can hold his nerve. And who knows, but you just don't see calmness at this level time and time again against that kind of barrage. But that said, I think Dominic won that first round because of the amount of work rate that he put in. Jones knows he's in there for the 5 rounds. He's been there before, time and time again. And I think that's why he never bothered fighting, horn for horn. That's why I think he was happy to let the round go and just come out of it unscathed.
He knows this 5-round fight. He knows what he's capable of, and I just felt like it got to a point where he was just going to make sure that he didn't eat anything too significant in terms of like fight ending.
I mean, could you imagine if Jones tried to meet force to force? I mean, that could have been different because Dominic was throwing with really hard shots, and he matches him in terms of height and what have you. So this guy was gonna, if he's gonna plant him, he was gonna plant him good if they traded. But he wasn't willing to play the trade. He was willing to play patient, and that part impressed me. I kind of knew what was going through John Jones's mind. I've been experienced where I've been facing people I know busting up in the first round, and I'm sort of half smiling, knowing their time's coming. I'm like, you carry on. It's okay. I'm going to stay tight, and I know I'm going to weather the storm. Are you going to be as composed when I come at you when you're a bit tired? But nevertheless, the leg kicks as well, might I add, was a really good strategy as well from Dominic. I think firing off at Jones's legs was stopping Jones firing off at his leg that we've seen. He really likes to stamp down on that lead knee. It definitely took away from Jones's main thing that sort of stops you in your track, and then he picks you apart from thereafter. He managed to get inside Jones's game time and time again, but to do so meant a lot of energy. And the thing is, getting in on Jones's game and doing that kind of energy when you're on the outside, you have to keep backpedaling, which we did see. But that's hard. That ain't easy. Running backwards and left and right when the other person's just taking sure steps forward. The guy dominating the cage will always be more efficient. And that began as the round slowly transitioned through. You started to see how Jones's steadier footwork started to show in terms of the different cardios. I mean, they're both probably just as fit as each other, but the fact that Jones was being more efficient with his footwork began to show through, and we noticed the pace gently taper off in the second round. Still a really fast-paced fight. Dominic coming out throwing calf kicks, but Jones was really checking a lot of the kicks. Did you notice?
He was. wasn't taking anything
Yeah.
too significant in terms of damage, certainly at this point. But I felt like when as I was watching it, I felt as if Jones was expecting this kind of barrage from Reyes early on in the first 2 rounds. I feel like he was expecting it, which would, probably helps him to remain calm if he's expecting it. But just to take the amount of, because it was constant, for the first round and most of the second round as well. I felt like Reyes really pushed the pace. Really,
well,
tried to get.
He landed a calf kick, then he landed a body kick, which was right on Jones's ribs. Then they had a real hand exchange where they both went at it a little bit. I mean, it's the only time I saw Jones trading a little bit, but no one really was over dominant there. Then Jones started landing some nice inside leg kicks of his own, and we started seeing Jones succeed more with his own leg kicks, didn't we? And I
he
thought
started
that
to come forward a bit more then, didn't he, in the second round?
Yeah, he started coming forward where he's actually throwing. Then Dominic lands an uppercut. The uppercuts look real dangerous. But again, everything just was not quite landing crisp enough to be hugely consequential.
No, I know.
Jones just
off.
I do put it down to the fact that he's just that good. I really do. I just think he's that good, and he manages his range extremely well. Very aware at all times. Of course, when someone's coming at you like Dominic does, something's going to get through somewhere down the line. But his distance management was that good that nothing really it hit him right on the button, sort of thing. So only have a few times did I see Jones look even the slightest bit uncomfortable, and when he was, it was literally for a second or two, and straight back to composure, straight back to pressing Dominic down. And that was pretty much how I saw the second round.
Second round to Reyes as well.
I would say Reyes won that one as well. Round 3, I think this this is probably the one where you decide who won that round. It was a real mixed bag. It's such a hard round to score. Jones come out landing inside low really well at the beginning. Then Dominic landed a left high kick, and then a body kick, another one. Then Jones landed a really good right hand. Then Dominic lands an uppercut again. So this is a real to and fro. They were both having their successes in the third round. Do you give it to Jones for the fact that he was the one always walking Dominic down? Or do you go in favour of the person who threw more out there and possibly landed more? I do think Dominic, perhaps his work rate was a little higher still in round 3 and maybe landed a little bit more. But Jones was shutting him down, making him look uncomfortable so much more. Very, very difficult round to score. Who did you have for round 3?
I really struggled with it because I felt like Jones was pushing forward and putting more pressure on Reyes, and like you used the perfect phrase, he was making him very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But obviously Reyes threw more strikes. I can see why the judges gave it to Jones.
Yeah.
Because I was in and ahhing, and I said, but I think I probably would have edged Reyes in it. Probably.
Yeah. Okay.
But
I think
I'm not like outraged by the fact that John Jones won that round.
I think they went for Jones in this round for the simple fact that he's being more diverse, that he started mixing the takedowns in. He got really in deep, didn't he? But on the legs and then went up to the hips. Although not hugely successful in terms of getting him down, keeping him down. The fact that he was making Dominic having to defend. Yeah, I think they momentarily did go to the ground, didn't they? Momentarily.
Yeah, only briefly.
Yeah, briefly. But I think the fact that he was trying to change the direction of the fight and throw more MMA at Dominic, not just trading backwards and forwards. Although Dominic perhaps threw and landed a little bit more, there was those takedown attempts and the footwork that was becoming more and more apparent. Dominic was running away. I don't want to say running away, it's probably not the word. Trying to stay elusive
moving away, yeah.
more and more and more. And he was looking more and more tired doing it. He's looking more ruffled. He's looking more vulnerable. And then he was having to deal with the takedowns as well. And I think that's possibly why. And, maybe rightly so. I'd still be inclined to maybe give it to Dominic for the fact that he was working so hard and, landing a little bit more. But do we, as MMAs, really judge just on what lands and what don't?
Yeah.
We do have to take into account the footwork. We do have to take down put into account the takedown attempts, even if they're not fully successful. They still made Dominic have to defend against the fence. He was still on the receiving end of those attacks. So just a little bit different from how we was talking about then Derrick Lewis and Latifi. Latifi got successful with the takedowns, but just didn't do a lot with them. Although Jones couldn't get any work off, he did get him down. He did have him against the fence, and he was making Dominic have to play defensive. So he was either against the fence, footwork in zigzagging left or right, or he's against the fence because he's getting put up there with the takedown attempts. I think that may be why the judges give Jones the third round. That's pretty much sums up, how I saw that third round. And then going into 4 and 5, I mean, this is uncharted territory for Dominic. And again, still fairly close round. Just Dominic was looking less effective. He come out, he comes straight out to strike. He started every round fast, didn't he? He started that 4th round the same. But Jones went in with those takedowns again. And I think this just took that extra bit of gas out of Dominic and was a perfect game plan. It really was. I just felt that we began to see that tide turn. And I felt like, is Dominic going to get to the end of the five minutes? Is he after 5 rounds? Is he going to fade so much so that Jones puts the clinic and finish like he's done so many of his opponents? But he kept to his word about elusivity. He kept zigzagging left and right, and he kept on always finding a way back to his feet with those momentary takedowns, and always threw enough to keep Jones at bay, finding his range and finding that knockout blow that he so often does. And that pretty much summed up the 4th round. But as we went into the 5th, I think you would have to agree that it was a case of just trying to get to the end of the fight for Dominic. And it was Jones looking to put it away to, concretely win the match. I think Jones thought he was winning. But, just like anyone should, when it's a little close, you should try and put it away. And he was hunting for the finish in that last round.
Yeah,
and still looked fresh. He still looked fresh.
Yeah, John Jones is he's just incredible to have 2 rounds like he did in the championship fight, the first 2 rounds, to then come and have 3 rounds like that, and in the last round look so fresh, so aggressive, and just that to me kind of encapsulates everything about why a lot of people think he's the greatest ever, because those first 2 rounds would have finished, particularly the first round. A lot of fighters would have struggled to get through that round. John Jones never looked like he was going to be finished. He never looked in trouble from that side of it. Reyes was impressive, and he's definitely, boosted his stock.
Yeah.
But John Jones is just a machine. And just gets better as the fight goes on.
He's put himself on the map as one of the best out there with that performance. Jones has looked so dominant over everyone that he's faced, and that was just an incredible performance, an incredible fight on both parties. It just makes me even more impressed with Jones. Okay, Jones has had a few, hiccups in his private life, and it's spilled over into his fight career. But they seem now long gone, and he's just doing such great work, and still shining through. Still relatively dominant. People are beginning to make his dominant style less effective, like we saw. People are trying to find a way around him, and maybe they're getting a little bit closer to perhaps figuring him out. But it's going to take someone special.
Do you think that comes with MMA evolving generally as well? Is, the way MMA's evolved over the years means that nearly every fighter in these top companies is decent striking, decent grappling, decent jiu-jitsu, decent wrestling and everything. So maybe the fighters that he was fighting early in his career weren't as capable at everything as the fighters he's fighting now.
Slightly, I don't think it's all down to that. I think that's certainly part of the equation. But you remember, Jones has been around for a long, long time now.
Yeah.
He has been evolving steadily. He has been improving steadily. But nevertheless, the style that he has is no longer a secret. So people are able to train for the things that he's been seen to do year in, year out. And like I say, people begin to fathom, his game out, his style out a little bit, and making him not as dominant anymore.
So Johnny asks, just because you're saying about style and the someone with a very similar style is Israel Adesanya, and Johnny asked, who would you think would win out of the fight between the two and why?
I think Jones would win this one. I just think
interesting.
Yeah, I do. For the fact that I think he could choose to put it to the ground, and I really think he could get it there. Not when he chose, but I just think Adesanya, he's just not tested there, is he?
No, we haven't seen enough of him to.
No, and I just think he just hasn't faced the type of person who can put him there and get him to that situation safely. Jones is a proper capable striker, as we've seen, where he get in closer and get the takedown. I just think he's a superior wrestler. He's the one that could steer the fight in a particular direction when push comes to shove. He's got more potential strategy in his favor, which is why I would go for him for the win.
Yeah, I agree. I think I do, but I also think that I could see them having a trilogy fight, and it being very close and going like Jones will win the first one, Adesanya will win the second one, and then you have like the rubber match. I can just see that happening because they're both so talented. Jones is getting older, we know that, but doesn't seem to show any signs of slowing. Gaz asks, is John Jones the greatest of all time? If not, who and why?
I don't. I wouldn't say he's the greatest of all time. If I get asked this a little bit, I say a little bit quite often when we're just talking as a general group after training and stuff. And I still say one of the ones that have impressed me the most is GSP. I just think, he managed to outstrike better strikers because of the format of MMA. He's out wrestled better potential wrestlers because of the style of MMA, and he's out maneuvered better jiu-jitsu guys because the fact that it's ground that's MMA. He really embraced the potential strategic aspects in every area to fight against someone that was potentially better than him in any given area. So he outstruck the striker for the fact that he could throw and then shoot and not give a chance of a counter strike. And with the wrestler, he would break their form in terms of their posture, get them standing up tall to get access to their hips and legs to bowl them over. If GSP, it wasn't as good as say Kajek. Am I saying his name right? I'm terrible with the names.
No, sure.
He would have been a more decorated wrestler, right? But if you're going to have GSP start with a body clinch or in a double leg position and say go, you're going to put your money on GSP. GSP found a way to get Koscheck upright, so tall that he got access to the legs and hips and bowled him over. He just kept taking him down. To me, GSP was the guy who could innovate ways to beat people in their own areas, using the fact that MMA was an evolving sport in its own right. He took the strategies to new levels for me.
Yeah, I think from a fight like IQ point of view, there's no one as good as GSP. I don't know. I think they've both got an argument to be considered the greatest of all time. And obviously, when you go like sort of out of the cage and the way they conduct themselves, GSP will always edge it because he was a gentleman and he was never in any trouble. And So well, from that aspect, but
I think
from a purely fighting point of view.
I think another point that could be added, not to take anything away from Jones, but the pool of the level and the regular up and comers in GSP's weight division was more. He had more of a talented pool to deal with. So there was always someone up and coming. There was always someone looking incredible because of their wrestling, incredible because of their striking, incredible because of their jiu-jitsu, incredible because they're just tough guys. And he found ways around every one of them, time and time again.
Yes, he did.
And so that's why I would edge it. I just think the climate of the division that he was in was more competitive potentially, and he still shone through dominant.
Good answer, and I tend to agree, but I do think those two stand out as the kind of guys who are better than anyone.
I mean, they're incredible athletes, and you could mention others as well. We have seen some incredible fighters over the years, and to pick one over the other is really quite difficult. We'll all have our preferences of what we appreciate about a fighter given over another one. I got asked my opinion. That was, mine. He really impressed me with the way he deciphered styles, and he really impressed me with the fact that his division was always stacked with talent. And every time he fought, he was fighting, people you initially look at it and be like, who is going to win? And he always, at times made it look easy.
Always,
not to say Jones ain't too, he has, but. I just don't think the pool is quite as stacked in those weight divisions.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. So, guys, thank you very much for joining us today. Be sure to check out the BST Academy, which is bstacademy.co.uk. Check out our friends at Away Day Apparel at awaydayapparel.co.uk. And don't forget to use the code to get 10% off. You can also check out our weekly Andy Campbell show, which is our football show. It's every Monday live, 7 p.m. On our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/AcePodcastNation, and Facebook Live, which is facebook.com/AceCastNation. Join us in the live chat on both or one or the other. Say hello, get involved. It's always a really fun show because it's just lots of madness as people are talking to us as we're covering the football. And I think when we finished last week, we had, as I pressed the end of the show, I think we'd had about 1,100 people watching, which was really cool. So join us, check out our other shows. We've got new series, My Story with England fast bowler Chris Lewis. We've just released another unscripted, uncensored with Modestus, UFC's newest sign-in. And check them all out. Shows for everyone on everything. Danny, thank you for joining me, my friend.
Thank you again, Si, for another great weekend chatting about MMA, my favourite subject.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure, mate. Guys, thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
Defending champion, welcome, Batten.